Today's Valentine's Day, as we all know. Folklorist Shane Lehane will share with us, of course, how in past times they had ways of foretelling love. They use love potions and charms and all sorts of things to make people fall in love with them.
Shane, I feel
we're thrilled to have you.
We've set the bar very high with you so far. I think today you're just going to rock it off awfully.
Well, I hope so. You know, people in the past had very strange activities around this time of the year, and especially when they wanted to see who their future love was going to be.
Yes.
In fact, they were enacting all sorts of magical charms, and the magic always involved kind of doing something at a particular time of the year, doing it in a particular place. For example, they would wait for maybe the full moon. That was always important. Maybe the first full moon after in the new year, or after Valentine's Day, whatever it might be.
Wasn't the first moon kind of dangerous though, because you'd have a lot of kind of...
Well, yeah, you had that, but in a way, everything was getting better, and when you waited for the full moon to be there, you might go to an unusual place, like a graveyard, a ring fort, one of the old megalithic tombs. You were invoking magic, so you would protect yourself. A girl, for example, would use a black-handled iron knife. She might take 3 little pieces of clay. She would bring it back. She would put it into her stocking, her left stocking, left because it's magic, but she would tie it with the garter from her right stocking because that was tightening in the magic that was there.
So was there magic associated with the left leg then?
Always. When you're doing magic, left and uneven numbers. If you were picking a herb, like one of the herbs here, not quite these ones, so like yarrow, for example, or ivy. Ivy, the different leaves of ivy look like heart shapes sometimes, and so on. You would put not 10, but 9 of those into the, if you like, the charm.
Would this be sinister sometimes?
It could be sinister sometimes, but they were mainly interested in finding who their true love was going to be.
Romantic and deep and hopeful.
Yeah, and what the young girl would do, it's usually girls, by the way, who were interested to see who the future man was going to be. They would put this particular charm then under their pillow, and the idea was that they were going to dream of their future lover. Now, one of the extra things they used to do was that they would make themselves really thirsty. Okay, and one of the ideas in doing that was that, and the way they did that was they would consume maybe porridge with a load of salt in it.
Yeah.
They might have one of the herrings, the salted herrings.
My favorite, before they went to bed.
Before they went to bed, without any drink whatsoever. And my favourite one was that they would take a concoction made of flour, soot taken from 9 different pots around the fire, okay, and salt. So a mixture of that, a spoon of that. They'd go into bed, they'd have their charm under their pillow. They would say a little thing. They would have a little charm. I think, Maura, you have one there. If you want to read it for me.
Moon, moon, tell unto me when my true love I shall see. What fine clothes am I to wear? How many children shall I bear? For if my love comes not to me, dark and dismal my life will be.
That was it. So she would say this. She wasn't allowed to speak any other word. She would go to sleep, and in her sleep, her future lover would come bearing a drink because she was now so thirsty. Sometimes
she's hallucinating, I'd say.
Sometimes young girls used to go to bed with their hair wet, and they would see that their lover would come to them with a towel to dry their hair. And there was even better ones. Sometimes they would take.
Can I just ask you just about what was the whole thing about the thirst?
The thirst, I suppose they wanted in the dream someone to come to relieve them of the thirst that was there.
All right, yeah.
They would sometimes go to the river, and they would take an intimate piece of their clothing, maybe the shift as we call it, which would be her nightdress or her slip, something close to her body, and she would wash that in the stream. And when she was washing it in the stream, she'd lay it out to dry, and she didn't look up. She might see in the opposite bank the reflection of the man that she was going to marry or she wanted to be
very
with.
exciting.
People actually believe this.
Oh, they did. Look, there was hundreds and hundreds of these charms and ways of foretelling, who was going to be your future lover and all of those ideas. But more than that then, they moved a step further, and they started to go into what we would call filters or love potions. Okay. And what was interesting about that is that they went from being fairly benign, to being absolutely on the dangerous scale.
Sinister,
And anything we're talking about today, I don't want anyone trying this at home. That's very important.
This would be a potion that, say, for example, if I was in love with Maura wasn't in love with me.
Yeah, that's it.
I put something into her drink to make her love me.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the easiest ones for you was men used to take the nail off their middle finger. Their middle finger had all sorts of signification, which I won't go into. And if you put that into someone's drink when they weren't looking,
into the tea,
the tea, and she was sure to fall in love with you.
Drinking away, what's even happening here now?
But there was.
She's got Betty Davis eyes. Shane, why did you tell me this 30 years ago? You'd have made life a lot easier for me.
But Maura, you had a way, if you weren't happy with those affections, you had a way of getting him back.
Oh, really? How?
So what girls used to do was they used to file their nails, and they would keep all the dust from filing their nails.
So I have it here.
And if they put that into the other person's drink, that was a proven emetic. It would make you get sick. And that would certainly quieten your cough very quickly. So that was part of
I do
the
find
issue.
you less attractive after that.
But there was.
She never told me to act these parts. This feels natural.
That was a simple one. It got even more complex. Quite often there was more trickery that went involved in the magic. The more unusual it was, the better. So there was one that I know, for example, where someone would catch a live frog. They'd put it into a box. They'd put the box into a ditch and they'd bury it, and they'd leave it die inside in the box. That's a kind of a sinister side. But then they'd leave all the flesh rot off the frog, and about 6 to 8 months later they'd take it out and they would pick the little wishbone, the sternum bone, out of the frog. And if you fancied someone, when you were at mass or when you were at some sort of gathering, you would try and put that into their clothes, and that was in County Roscommon.
Why the frog? Do we know?
The frog, I suppose there was mice and there were frogs and so on. I suppose they were small bones. They weren't visible.
So you put it into clothes and what, the person would fall for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is unbelievable.
Because I don't know, we always had chicken on a Sunday, right? And we always fought over the wishbone.
Oh, you would,
the same
you do
wishbone.
the thing,
And you
don't
do
you?
that thing and you grow up. And if you got the bigger half, you got the wish.
But there was pins as well, and sometimes the pins went through a huge process. You would pick 10 pins, but you were only taking one of them, okay? So the odd number again was important. The pins would go rusty. You could put the pins into all sorts of different things, which I can't tell you about.
Kind of voodoo thing, is it?
Well, no. What they would do is they'd put into a mushroom, the bulagan becha, as they call it, the puffball mushroom.
Yeah.
And there was, you would take that, you would always rub it against as well the early purple orchid, which comes out, which has other connotations. And if you put that pin into someone's clothes, they too would fall madly in love with you. That's all over the folklore record.
Shane, this continues for centuries, but when do we stop doing these? Or does anyone practice this anymore?
I think most of the accounts I have, nobody I know practices them, as far as I know. But I suppose you're really talking about the 19th century, early 20th century, and I think that's when they died out. But there were bigger ones than that, because lots of people were then given kind of herbs and medicines that made them go out of their mind. And they literally hallucinogens, and people who were under kind of like hemlock and deadly nightshade and so on, people who actually died after taking these. And someone said that if you gave someone one of the love potions and the wind changed direction, that was the reason they went out of their minds. But there were lots of guys walking around who had been surreptitiously given these sort of potions. And I suppose one of the best known we should talk about is Biddy Early. You know, Biddy Early from Fecal, the well-known figure that's
she was
there.
from the Iron Islands too, you know that?
Was she? Yeah.
Apparently she was supposed to have come to cure somebody on the white horse and all this.
But Biddy was someone now. There's a lot of to talk about Biddy, and I'd have great admiration for my good friend Eddie Lehane, who's done great work with Biddy.
I love the whole Biddy Early story.
But Biddy had 4 different men in her life, 3 of which died early on. The last of which was a man 33 years of age, a man called Meany, who came, and she was 70 when she married him.
My God.
And what happened is that he seemed to be under the influence of her potions and concoctions. So sure, it might be for curing, but I would venture to say that Biddy had a way of maybe drugging the men in her life, and the given fact that 3 of them died before her.
Shane, we have only a few seconds left. I have a love charm here. What is this about, first of all?
Okay, so this is what you would encounter. So magic doesn't work unless you get all the elements together. Right time, right place, plus the right words. So you tell us what that one is.
Okay, so it says here, you for me and I for thee, and for no one else your face to mine, and your head turned away from all others. Repeat this 3 times secretly, over a drink, and you will find love. Is it?
That's it. So when you're putting your nail into Maura's drink, that's your incantation, and you must get that, and you must speak no other words when you're doing it, and no one must witness it.
Okay.
These are lovely. I love all this stuff. It's brilliant. Too many people don't do these anymore. Well, not the drug things, obviously, but
Now we're telling people not to try.
everyone should try this at home. Absolutely. Shane, thanks so much.
Thank you,
Great
Shane.
to have you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much.
Can we hear Shane's song? This is Shane's favourite song.
Je t'inventerai des mots.
Jacques Brel.
That brilliant, yeah. And can I dedicate that to my love, my Maura Sheehan at home.
Maura, you're a very lucky woman to have Shane in your life. You really, really are. Thanks, Shane. Great to have you. He's such a deep, meaningful person.
That fella. Never said.
That's good. Thank you.
Way to go.
Anyway, love knows no boundaries, and neither does Billy Keane. He has stories of live and life from around the country after the break.
Yes, but also be